Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've just started a company. It's a tech company, contact and online. It's on Freeman side.
Oh, wow. Very
So
cool.
I'm also more in a program of career guidance.
Okay.
I've started career guidance program. So I just wanted to ask on in terms of growing communication-wise.
Yeah.
More of a person who would like to grow communication-wise.
Yeah.
And I would like to understand the difference between IQ and EQ.
Okay.
In terms of growing in space and being able to balance both in terms of making decisions.
Okay.
And in the space of making it easy for explaining academics to students. Like, how can I make it easy using ChatGPT
Okay, that's a good question.
to grow my communication skill in terms of teaching?
Yep.
And also in the space of, especially growing emotional wise.
Yeah, okay.
Because
So have you
I
read
need
Daniel Goleman's book? The grandfather of EQ, of emotional intelligence. Yeah, Daniel Goleman. Yeah. So he's got a book called, it's written by Daniel Goleman, but it's called EQ, Emotional Intelligence. It's a good book to read. Comparatively to obviously IQ, which is a completely different kind of field. There is obviously, it's a tricky topic because they do work together and you do need kind of both. Okay? I would say in South Africa, if it's personal stuff, your EQ is going to be more important. How you connect with the people that are around you and read the room in a way is going to be more important than your IQ. Okay? IQ is important though, and there's ways that obviously, again, like I think we sometimes. I did a trip through Africa for like 3 years. I went to like 30 different. I backpacked through like 30 different countries over like 3 years. It was a fun experience. I almost died in a few. Then I got washed off Vic Falls. I had malaria in Dar es Salaam. I was in hospital there for like a month. I lost 20 kgs. I was peeing black because my red blood cells were dying. So I was on my deathbed basically. And after that trip, I realized a few things. When I got back, first thing is take mosquitoes seriously. Okay? Second thing was access to kind of exposure in a lot of ways. You know, a lot of the continent isn't exposed to the kind of technologies that a lot of the world is exposed to, and a lot of it. The more you expose yourself to things, the more you kind of become familiar. You become kind of aware. You understand how to connect certain dots, etc., etc. So with the problem with students that I found, and again I work with grade 3s all the way through to like 50, 60-year-olds. So I've also had to kind of deal with how do I get this message across in a way that's going to be understood by the most people. And I found that analogies work nicely. So try and find analogies that are kind of like, so if it's a football analogy to explain a concept, a complex concept, and that's where GPT does come in handy. So I'm trying to explain this to a group of people that haven't got experience in this. How can I explain it to them with using an analogy? And you can again say very localized. Say I'm in Durban, South Africa. I'm in Richards Bay. I'm in whatever, and it'll find things because it knows enough information about those areas to be able to go. Okay, we'll use this as an analogy to explain this topic. That makes sense. So rather than just getting all technical, because I've got to like hold myself back when I'm with students because a lot of them aren't exposed to all of this stuff, and I've got to like, okay, how far are you with your digital literacy before I start diving into coding and robotics and 3D printing, and I need to know that you kind of got the foundation right. And it's the same thing with any student. You need to kind of assess where their foundation is, what knowledge they've got to work with. Because if they don't have enough to work with, what you're saying, you may as well be speaking kind of German to them. So if you can find ways to simplify what you're trying to explain using analogies, then I find that helps. Soccer works for young boys a lot of the time. Obviously, there's other ways. I work with a lot of boys, like boys' schools, but even with girls, ChatGPT will help you come up with analogies that are kind of relevant to young ladies, again, in certain areas, etc. Does that answer more or less?